In this video, we are going to talk about collections in MongoDB. So we will be talking about what are collections and how to create them in the MongoDB. So we are going to learn how you can create collections using the terminal, as well as how you can create collections in your application. And we will also talk deeply about how to create schemas of a collection. So hey everyone, this is Kamran and I'm a full stack web developer, and in this video series I'm teaching MongoDB to beginners. So if you are new here, I would suggest you to hit the subscribe button to follow the whole series so that you can master MongoDB. Let's talk about what are collections in this video. So collections are equivalent to a table in a relational database system. So for those who are completely new to the databases, I would like to explain collections as a group of data. So let's say your application is going to have different kind of data. So let's take an example of our e-commerce application in which we have category, subcategory, and product. So in relational databases, we create different table for each kind of entities. Similarly, in MongoDB, we create collection for same. And in each collection, we have different documents. So document is a single entry of the table or the collection. So let's say if I create a collection of categories, whenever I'm going to add a new category, that will create a new document inside this collection. So now let's see how you can create different collections in our MongoDB database. So first we will learn how we can do that using terminal or this command line interface. So for the MongoDB command line interface, you just have to type Mongo in your terminal and hit enter. And if you have already installed MongoDB server, then you will enter into a command line interface where you can type different commands and use your MongoDB. So in this server, we have different databases. Let's first connect to our database. And how to see all the databases. So we just have to say show DBs, and this will list all the databases in our server. And in order to use any particular one, you have to use. So use local. So this command will activate that particular database, and in this database, let's create a collection. So first let's clear up the terminal and start creating the collection. So in this local database, we are going to create some random collection. So for that, we have to use db.create collections. So and in this method we just have to pass the name of the collection. So let's try to create a user collection inside this. So once I do this and hit enter, you can see that we will get a response of OK1. That means that this collection has been created. So this is the simplest way to create any collection. And now in order to see collections, we just have to say show, and we can use collections. So once I enter, so list of all the collections will appear over here. So this ABC is a random which I created, and user we created just now, and this startup log is the default collection inside this database. So all the databases have this collection in which MongoDB internally stores up the logs. So now let's try to create a collection using our application. So if you remember in the last video, we created this connection with the database. Now using this file only, we are going to create the schema of a collection, and then we are going to create that, right? So for that, first let's decide a schema for that. So in this e-commerce application, the first collection which we are going to create is our category, right? So let's do that. So for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new file with the name of category. And in this file, we are going to create the schema for our category collection. And how to do that? So we are going to use the mongoose for that. So let's import mongoose first. So const mongoose is equals to require, and this will be mongoose. So now I have imported that, and now I'm going to create a instance of a schema, right? So let's do that. So schema is equals to mongoose dot schema. So using this schema, we are going to create a new mongoose schema, right? So let's do that. So let's create a module in which I'm going to use this. So I'm going to create module, and this will be a module function. So I will explain why I'm creating this module function, but first let's design a schema for this. So what I'm simply going to create a new variable name as category, schema, and this will be the variable in which we are going to store our schema. So let's instantiate a new schema, and in this schema we have to pass this actual schema of our entity, right? So here you have to give all the properties which you want in this schema. So the best way to design a schema is to take a paper and pen and sit down with your colleague and your coding partner and discuss each and every each and every property you will be needing in this schema. So let's say for category we are going to have name, URL, and some default properties such as is deleted, is active. So we have to add all the properties which we have already created in our file based database. So we can refer that, or we can just simply start adding it. So how to add that? So let's say if I want to add a name, right? So name, and this name will always be a string. So you have to give the type of this property. So similarly, I'm going to have a URL, and this URL also will be a string. And then we are going to have is deleted, which we will keep as number, or we can put it as a boolean. So boolean could be a true or false, right? And similarly we are going to have is active. Yeah, so this is active will be boolean as well. So here, along with these properties, we can also add some configurations. So in order to add a configuration, we have to add another object in this parameters. The second parameters will be an object of configurations. So here you can add some configurations in order to, if you want some special functionality in your schema. So I'm just going to add a timestamp. So this timestamps will make sure that all your entries in your this schema will have created at and updated at properties. And this will help us to track the creation and the updation of a particular entry. And now we just have to return this schema. So let's return this, return, and this will be mongoose dot model. And in this model we are going to pass two things. First will be the name of the schema, which will be the category, and the second which will be the actual schema. So let's copy this here. So this function will return this actual model, or you can say actual collection of the categories with the category schema. So here actually we are just calling this mongoose.model, in which we are passing the name of this collection, and along with that we are passing the schema design, right? So you can do the same with subcategory and product. So that will be your homework. And now we have created this. Now how to use this in our application, we are going to see that. In order to use this model, I'm going to get this model in our main MongoDB file, and from here I'm going to pass this to other application. So in order to get the models, we are going to create a new variable named as models, and this models I'm going to get from the current directory. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to import a default. So here I'm going to import an inbuilt module of node name as required dir. So this will get all the models from all the pages. So this will get the category models from this category file. And let's create a model inside this. So here I'm again going to create a local variable name as models, and in this models will be an empty object. So now in order to get all the models, we have to call these functions, right? So here I'm going to do that. So I'm just going to loop over the models, which is dot keys, and this will be models. And here I'm going to for each, and this will be our model. And now here in the models, I'm just going to add a model as a key, and here the value will be the actual model, right? So how to get that way to call these models, right? So let's do that. So if this is confusing, I would just simplify it. So we require all the files from the same directory, and this file I'm looping and calling each of the modules. So once I call this, I get this as a model, right? In this models. So this models variable will contain all the models in our application. So now instead of returning this connection, I'm going to return an object in which we will have connection and models. And these models we are going to use in other application. So now let's try to run this application and see the output, how this model looks like. So for that, I'm going to just log this MongoDB over here. So now this MongoDB is a promise. So we have to get the output of this promise. Now, so let's do some code changes and get the output of this promise. So in our server.js, what I'm going to do, I'm going to wrap this whole thing into a function. So let's create a function name as my app, and this will be a function, and we will wrap all the coding inside this. And once this is done, I'm going to call this function here down, my app run. Okay, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a sync over here. So why I did this, because I have to use await inside this, so that's why I wrapped this in a sync function. So now I'm going to move this inside our function, and here I'm just going to add await. So this will be get the value out of this promise. So now let's try to run this again. So I'll clear this up and we'll run this. So here you can see that we have this whole big function in which we have our Mongo connection and errors and numbers, everything. You can also see that we have these models, right? So once we are going to use this object, we can simply use the category models from here. So you just have to do dot category and dot to use this model. So this will be used to perform a CRUD on our documents, right? And we are going to do that in our next video. So hit the subscribe button so that you never miss our new videos. So thanks for watching the whole video. See you in the next video where we are going to take the further steps in our MongoDB application development.